Damon sure didn't look at me as he moved papers around on his desk. His voice was calm, almost rehearsed. "We're restructuring the senior management team," he said. "Your position has been eliminated." I sat still across from him, hands folded in my lap. I had sat like this through thousands of meetings over the past 32 years at Calridge Equity Partners. The large oak desk between us had been there since before I joined. Damon, however, had only been behind it for 6 weeks. "I see," I said, keeping my voice calm even though my heart was pounding. "Can I ask why now?" "I'm set to retire in less than 2 months. He finally looked up at me. His face was trying to look sorry and confident at the same time, but it didn't feel sincere. At just 38, Damon was the kind of CEO the board now wanted: young, bold, and straight out of Silicon Valley. He was all about fast growth and sharp changes. "We don't have the luxury of time," he said. "The restructuring needs to happen immediately to meet our quarterly goals. HR will explain your exit package." He checked his watch. "They're waiting for you now." I stood up slowly, maintaining the same calm I'd shown through market crashes, mergers, and years of pressure. "Thank you for the opportunity to serve Calridge," I said as I extended my hand. He shook it briefly, already distracted, reaching for his phone. "Security will escort you out. My name is Harriet Vaughn. Until 15 minutes ago, I was the Senior Vice President of Operations at Calridge Equity Partners. I'm 64 years old, and I've dedicated my whole career to helping grow this company, from a tiny office over a pharmacy to a firm recognized across the country." As I walked back to my office, a security guard followed behind me. He looked uncomfortable. In my head, I thought about the retirement party my team had been planning. The emails had already started coming in, congratulations from clients, friends, and partners. I had carefully written a transition plan so everything would run smoothly after I left. But now, none of that mattered. Laura, my assistant for the past 12 years, was waiting by my office. Her eyes were red. "I just heard," she whispered. "This is so wrong." I took her hand and gave it a squeeze. "It's just business, Laura, nothing personal." But it didn't feel like that. As I packed up my things, under the eyes of security, I couldn't stop thinking about the Thursday golf games I had every week with Charles Denham from Marion Bay Holdings, Jeff Williams from Trevanta, and Ella Lehner Blackwood from Zentran Global. We'd been playing together for over 15 years, and during those games, we didn't just talk about golf, we talked business, big business. I wondered if Damon even knew those games existed. Probably not. Kevin, the security guard following me to my car, looked heartbroken. I had hired him myself 7 years ago. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Vaughn," he said softly. "This isn't right." "It's okay, Kevin, you're just doing your job." I smiled. "How's your daughter doing? Still studying engineering?" He blinked, surprised I remembered. "Yes, ma'am, she made the dean's list last semester." "That's wonderful, she's going to do great things." I put the box of my things, some photos, a plant, a mug my grandson made, into the trunk of my car and looked one last time at the Calridge building. It stood tall and modern now, nothing like when I started. Back then, we worked above a pharmacy in just 3 small rooms. Driving home through Lexington, I felt strangely calm. The shock had faded, replaced by a strange emptiness. I wasn't angry, I wasn't grieving, it was just hollow. Damon didn't even know what I actually did at the company. When I got home, my husband Thomas looked worried. "You're home early, what happened?" "I've been let go," I said simply, effective immediately. "What?" he snapped. "That's ridiculous. You've given them everything. You're retiring in 2 months." He was furious as I told him the story. "It's done," I said finally. "No use getting angry now. You're the reason Calridge even landed Marion Bay. Have you called Charles? He'll be livid." "I haven't called anyone yet." I glanced at the clock. "But I need to change. I have dinner with Ella Lehner tonight." He froze. "Ella Lehner Blackwood from Zentran?" I nodded. "That's the one. Are you going to tell her?" "I won't hide it, but I won't complain either." That was my way. I never yelled, never played dirty. I let my work speak for me. That approach got me through 3 decades in a tough, male-dominated industry, where, early on, women like me were expected to fetch coffee, not lead. As I changed, I thought about the people I worked with, the team I had mentored. I worried about what might happen to them under Damon's leadership. I worried about the firm's future. At the restaurant, Ella Lehner was already seated. At 68, she was still one of the smartest women in finance. Under her leadership, Zentran Global had grown into a giant in the industry. "Harriet," she said, hugging me, "you look troubled. What's going on?" I had planned to ease into the conversation, but she saw right through me, as always. We ordered our usual drinks, bourbon for her, gin and tonic for me, and I told her what happened. "They fired you," she said, setting her glass down sharply. 2 months before retirement, that's not just rude, it's stupid. The new CEO wants to make changes," I replied calmly. "It's nothing unusual. There's nothing smart about cutting the person who holds the trust of your biggest investors," she said, "especially with a funding round coming up, and especially someone who golfs with Charles Denham." I raised an eyebrow. "You know about our golf games?" "Everyone knows," she said. "Between you, Charles, Jeff, and me, we manage nearly $200 million of Calridge's capital." She leaned in, voice low. "Charles called me after your last game. He was worried, said Damon was too fast, too focused on short-term wins, asked if I'd consider moving our investments." That surprised me. Charles had stuck with Calridge for 18 years. "And what did you say?" "I told him I trusted you. As long as you were there, I wasn't worried." She paused. "But now, things have changed." The waiter brought our food. I sat quietly for a moment, letting it all sink in. I had expected my departure to be noticed, but I didn't realize just how shaky Damon's position already was. "I don't want any decisions made because of me," I said softly. "I had a good run. I was nearly finished anyway." Ella Lehner looked at me, serious. "You've always put the firm first, Harriet, but let me ask you this, do you really believe Calridge is in good hands with Damon Shore?" I looked down at my plate. For 32 years, I had given everything to that company. I defended every leader. I put Calridge before myself again and again. But now, sitting outside of it all for the first time, I could finally see things clearly. "No," I said quietly, "I don't think it is." The boardroom was quiet when I walked in. Around the long mahogany table sat people I had worked with for years, some for decades. Others were newer faces I only saw during quarterly meetings. At the center sat Philip Peterson, the board chairman, his normally calm face tight with stress. Beside him, on the right, was Victoria Coleman. She was the one who had hired me 32 years ago. On Philip's left sat a row of new board members, younger, eager, but clearly uncertain. One person was missing, Damon Shaw. "Thank you for coming on such short notice, Harriet," Philip began, his voice soft but clear. "I want to be very upfront. What happened yesterday, that wasn't a board-approved decision. We were informed only after the fact." I didn't let my expression change, though a small part of me felt quietly satisfied. Still, I kept my voice even. "I appreciate you saying that. So, what can I do for you today?" Victoria leaned forward, her tone serious. "We're in a crisis, Harriet. Charles Denham has just pulled Marion Bay's entire investment from the upcoming funding round. Ella Lehner Blackwood pulled Zentran Global support too, and Jeffrey Williams is meeting with Trevanta's board this afternoon. We expect he'll follow suit." I nodded. "Yes, I've heard." Philip's expression turned grim. "All told, that's a loss of around $180 million. Without that funding, everything falls apart, our expansion, new departments, future projects. We'll have to make massive cuts. People will lose jobs." I looked at him steadily. "People already have." That truth hung in the air, heavy and uncomfortable. Victoria was the one to break the silence. "We made a mistake," she admitted, her voice low. "We got so focused on changing things, modernizing everything, that we forgot what actually made Calridge successful, the relationships people like you spent years building." Philip nodded. "Damon Shaw has been placed on administrative leave, effective immediately, pending further review." I blinked in surprise. That was fast. For a board to act against a CEO they had hired barely 6 weeks ago, that meant things were even worse than I'd realized. "So what exactly are you asking of me?" I asked, folding my hands in my lap. The two exchanged a glance. "We want you to speak with Charles, Ella Lehner, and Jeffrey," Philip said, "see if they'd consider returning, or at least pausing their exits, if certain changes are made at Calridge." "What kind of changes?" "For starters, we'll undo Damon's restructuring," Victoria said, "reinstate the senior staff he dismissed, We're prepared to issue a formal apology to you, along with your full salary and benefits through your original retirement date, and we'd like to offer you additional compensation for what you went through yesterday. It was more than I expected, and certainly more than I'd ever asked for, but something didn't sit right. And who would be leading Calridge during all of this? I asked, while you search for a new CEO? Silence, again. Philip cleared his throat. We were hoping you might consider returning, not necessarily as CEO, but in an interim executive role, something that would reassure our investors during this transition. I leaned back in the chair, letting that sink in. Retirement was just around the corner. I had already started letting go, mentally and emotionally. Thomas and I had plans. I had a garden waiting, and places I wanted to see. Victoria's voice was soft. We know what we're asking, Harriet, and we understand if you say no, but the truth is, our investors trust you. No one else has that kind of connection with them. I thought of my team, the ones left disoriented and demoralized after Damon's sweeping cuts. I thought of Laura, who cried when security walked me out. I thought of the clients who had emailed congratulations on my retirement, now likely wondering what on earth had happened. But I also thought of the life I had earned, the peace I had looked forward to. 32 years was a long time to give to anything. I need time, I said at last, and I need to speak with Charles, Ella Lehner, and Jeffrey directly, not as your messenger, but as someone who cares about them, and their money. I need to understand what's really driving their decisions. Philip nodded quickly. Take all the time you need. As I stood, Victoria followed me toward the door. For what it's worth, Harriet, she said gently, I tried to fight your dismissal. We all did, but by the time we knew, it was already done. I looked at her, older now, tired, but still the same woman who had once taken a chance on a young woman in a male-dominated world. I believe you, I said quietly, but good intentions don't erase what's already been done. You gave Damon the power. The damage didn't start yesterday, it started the day he walked through that door with your approval. With that, I walked out of the Calridge building, again, the same building I had helped build, shape, and lead. But this time, I didn't feel bitter. I felt something else. Free.